Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Eric Speck, the Director of Peer Support at RPH Ally. I'm getting so excited. I'm talking too fast, tripping over my tongue. Anyways, we're here today with a very special guest, a good friend of mine, Massimo Rigotti. Massimo is in recovery. He helps other addicts discover their unique flavor of confidence. He's a professional speaker as well as an author of one very good book, and he's going to be coming out with another one shortly. So I'm going to play this reel, and then we're going to dive into Massimo right after this. All right, Massimo, my man, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me today, Eric.
Hey, thanks for being here. The pleasure is all mine. Just so the viewers know, I met Massimo, I guess, a few months ago now. We're both in a program to work on our speaking business and further our careers in professional speaking. And Massimo and I, we kind of talk about the same thing, addiction and recovery. We have similar backgrounds in a lot of ways, so we naturally connected. And I thought he'd be great to bring on the show. And I think he has a lot of really good wisdom and advice for a lot of the viewers who may be struggling, looking for support. And especially if you have a history of addiction or alcoholism. And I don't want to say too much, so I want Massimo to tell us what he's all about. But one thing that I think is really neat, everybody's probably heard of the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous, right? Very popular programs. Massimo's in a 12-step program, and he felt there was a different way to do it that he felt suited him better and could possibly be better for others. And he calls that the sober method. And I believe that would be a 5-step program, but I don't know much about it. So Massimo, go ahead and just tell us a little bit more about yourself, your book, your sober method, everything you have going on.
Sure. Thank you, Eric. Actually, one of the things that first drew you to me was my first job, as you might recall. So I worked in a pharmacy, in a family pharmacy, McDaniel's in Kansas City. And that was my job all through high school and into the first part of college. So I really enjoyed pharmacy work.
I remember that. Do you have any idea if that pharmacy is still around?
They sold to Rite Aid or Reliable, actually, I believe, in the 90s. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. That's, us pharmacy people, especially with the independent pharmacies, we always want to know what's going on with them. So they sold out to a chain, it sounds like. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. And they were a 3-store kind of mini chain within Kansas City. So it was kind of a shame to see a really strong independent sell like that.
Yeah. We're seeing that more and more. It seems there used to be independent pharmacies on every corner, and now they're shutting down or being bought out. So it's harder to survive with today's world and independent pharmacy. But anyways,
yes, we digress.
Let's move on. Yes.
So absolutely. So my background has been really all over the place after that first job, and I found myself absolutely addicted to alcohol and drugs. And in 2015, ended up becoming homeless. And while I was on the street, I learned a lot more about myself, reflected upon some things. And as I ventured into AA and NA, I started working the 12-step programs. And I just did not find that it was doing what it really needed to do. And that is to put these addictive tendencies behind me. So I decided to create my own method. And today we know that as the sober method. And what sober stands for is stoic, observe, behavior, execute, and restore. And it works as a continuous process. Okay. So as you're forming up your stoic beliefs, and many of you may be familiar with stoic beliefs and attitude, but a lot of it is reflective and mindfulness towards yourself and understanding the 4 pillars of stoicism, which are wisdom, temperance, justice, and courage. So those are all 4 important things. That temperance is definitely important if we're talking about sobriety, right?
Yeah.
So as you move through the process, and then you're observing yourself, then you're correcting your behavior, then you're executing the plan that you've set for yourself. And the restoration step is then ultimately the forgiveness from others. And as you make these little gains, you're measuring yourself. That's another important thing that I have in my plan. what have you achieved? You set your goals. I've achieved all these goals. Okay, I'm going to go reflect more on myself and try to dig deeper for something else and new. And as you do that, you correct that behavior and you're coming back around, you're getting more forgiveness. And so it's just like this continuous loop that focuses. So after doing this for about 18 months, I had several people in AA say, wow, you're doing so well. What is going on with you? I said, well, I'm actually working this. And so I was in the AA meetings because I enjoyed the camaraderie. People were facing the same challenges I was facing.
Yep.
And so that was the real core need there.
Yep.
But then at AA meetings, I started talking about my plan. And before you know it, I had several people that have utilized the plan. And over time, this became, well, why shouldn't I write a book about it? Why should I get out here and talk about it? And
well,
that's where we are.
Take these people on as sponsees and work them through your program, just like a sponsor would take people through a 12-step program.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. So, I mean, over time, I now have had people who are successfully utilizing my program rather than the 12-step program. So I don't want to discount that whatever works for you is the most important thing that you need to do. Because, you know, sobriety is a very personal journey for everybody. And so what worked for me may not work for you. But the one thing that I like about my program, obviously I'm going to like my program, right? But the one thing I like about it is that it's tailored to you. The rules are set by you as you craft your own flavor of confidence. So confidence is this like underlying really important feature that we all need. And the more confidence we have, I noticed this around others, is that the more confidence they had, the less likely they were to bend and break and have a drink or to utilize substance. And that's where that confidence needs to be built up. And you have more confidence when you feel good about yourself. Certainly. And so if you do these things in very little steps, don't do it all at once. And I feel like there's a lot of focus in 12-step programs of focusing on achieving that. And then you got to get there and you got to hold this line. Whereas it might be easier to chew off a little and just get a little bit better. I've actually successfully coached someone who was drinking every day and then tapered it down until they weren't drinking at all. Now, if you were to go to a traditional program, you would never do that. That your first step would be quitting altogether. Well, I think some of us know that can be dangerous as well. I mean, if you're an alcoholic and you stop, you could end up having a seizure. So you don't want to do that either.
No, definitely not. Definitely can be dangerous. It's interesting you say that. I mean, I agree with everything you say. And it is interesting how 12-step programs look at things a certain way, but like you said, everybody's different, right?
Yeah.
And it may not work for somebody really well, but it may not work for somebody else as well or at all. You know, you were talking about the importance of having confidence. And again, I totally agree with you on that. And one thing that happens in addiction and alcoholism is there's a lot of shame that happens because of somebody's behavior when they're drinking or when they're using. And then that makes them feel worse about themselves. And in order to deal with those feelings, they drink more. Mm-hmm. But then you have bad behavior, other things happen. And it's this vicious cycle where you're just trying to numb the shame by continuing to drink. And so when you're talking about the confidence and like your books, the flavors of confidence, you know, you really hone in on the importance of having that confidence, that increased self-esteem. So you're feeling better about yourself and you don't feel that you need to drink to make yourself feel better, to make those bad feelings go away, to numb the pain or whatever it is, because you like yourself. You like the way you feel. You feel pretty darn good. I'm confident, good self-esteem. I'm happy. Why do I want to change this?
Exactly.
I love it, man.
Exactly. You nailed it. And you touched on something else that I actually bring up in my book is the fact that as an addictive personality, I think that you never really lose these addictive traits. So you have to find your way to rechannel this addiction. So in a sense, you're becoming addicted to being confident, which is a lot more healthy than being addicted to drugs or alcohol, right?
Sure.
And the other kind of dangerous thing is this self-affirmation that happens when bad things happen. I drink to cope with these. Then things get worse. I drink more to cope with these. And basically you're chasing the high of getting ever lower, if that makes any sense. But that's basically what you're doing.
Yeah, it makes sense. It totally doesn't make sense, but no, in a way it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I was curious, so you came up with the sober methodology. How did you come about creating this? I mean, is it something you sat down and you thought about, you had to put effort into it, or was it something that came more naturally? Did you use other techniques that you learned elsewhere and incorporated into this? How did it come about?
Sure. Yeah. Well, it all came kind of all at once. It was just before New Year's, actually, on 2016, and I was sober at this point, but I just didn't feel like I was going to be able to maintain it for the rest of my life, and I had to find a better way. I thought about all these different things that I had been taught, and I realized, you know what, I'm going to have to create my own thing. And I just sat there, just kind of staring at the wall, to be honest with you. And then I got up and I went to my desk and I sketched out my program. I mean, within like 30 minutes, I said, okay, well, then this step has to do this, and this has to do this, and this is how this has to work. And then I started following it just to see whether or not it would work. And over time, it's been crafted and recrafted a little bit as I've worked with others and myself before it really solidified itself into the sober method. So it's been messy over the past like 7 years to get it to exactly where it is, but that's the exciting thing. So I have a book that would be coming out here at the end of the month on the 31st. And that is going to be called Flavors of Confidence Sober Method, as you can see in my title right there. And I definitely would encourage anyone who's interested in an alternative means to check it out.
Yeah. Would it make sense to work the 12 steps with a sponsor and then work this as well?
You're going to have to find, and I actually say this in the book, and I will say it right now, you need to find what works best for you. For some people, it's going to work well to have the 12 steps, and this is a sidecar. For some people, you're going to find that, 12 steps isn't working for me. I'm going to focus on the sober method and still go to group because I need to lean on others and have somebody to talk to. And so I think that there's kind of a good way that you can work it together. And then others like me might find themselves where I go once a year because I just, want to make sure everyone knows that I still exist.
Yeah, no, the power of that group, that community, that support is so powerful and so important. Before we jumped on live, you and I were chatting, and I said that's the best thing I liked about 12-step meetings. I mean, working the 12 steps, working with a sponsor, there are a lot of benefits with that. It's very powerful, but it's not as powerful as going there and being part of a group, and you're all there for the same reasons. You relate to each other. You're all everybody's trying to better themselves. And just the feeling you get with that is, I don't know, it's hard to compare that to anything else. And this book, where if somebody's interested in getting this book, I know you said it comes out, you say at the end of this month? That's
yes, the 31st of August will be available on Amazon, Apple, anywhere you want to buy a book.
The 31st of October. You said August. October.
October. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, it'll be everywhere. Amazon. Okay. And your other book that you currently have out, Flavors of Confidence, you can find that on Amazon as well.
Yes, it's out and available now. And anybody that wants to check me out, MassimoRigotti.com is my website.
MassimoRigotti.com. Love it. All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap things up here. Massimo, it's been great having you on. Thank you so much. Do you have any final words of wisdom or anything to say to our viewers before we log off?
Absolutely. I just want to say to anyone who's struggling that you have the power and the strength and resilience within you to get anywhere you want to be in life. You just have to focus in and grab it.
I freaking love it, man. That we could have just had a 10-second show with that right there. No, it would have been perfect, man. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. If any way I can help you, you know where to find me, rphally.com. Come over to the peer support channel. MassimoRigotti.com if you have any questions for Massimo. Thanks for joining us today. Massimo, I'll see you later, man.
Thank you.